So our guest this episode is Jordan Walker, co-founder of Backtrack, the booth sales assistant designed to help exhibitors turn more conversations into real results. Backtrack was featured in the Wall Street Journal, Fast Company, Business Insider, TechCrunch, and more. And Jordan has raised over $10 million in funding from major investors, including Slack and Florida funders. With a background in business development, fundraising, and marketing, he knows what it takes to make exhibiting a success. So we're going to go beyond just showing up to truly maximizing every opportunity. So here to share insights on how trade show exhibitors can build relationships, follow up more effectively, and boost their trade show ROI, please welcome to the podcast, Jordan Walker. Welcome to the Engaging Personalities Podcast. I'm Anders Belanger, founder and CEO of Engagify, where we're on a mission to rehumanize business through engagement. We believe that we can all be more successful if we can command attention and deepen connection. So stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest on a future episode. So let's get ready to engage. Welcome, Jordan.
Wow, I appreciate it. What an intro. It's an honor to be here. I'm super excited to chat today. And I think we're going to get into some really good stuff. I'm excited for this one.
Awesome. So first off, I just want to say we were at Exhibitor Live and our booths were right beside each other. And for those listening, don't know, or right across the aisle. That's right. Exhibitor Live is a trade show, focused on trade shows. So the attendees coming are often, exhibit managers. There's, of course, people who are, exhibit dealers and exhibit houses come, and it's a real chance to kind of show off what's new and what's happening. And Jordan, your company Backtrack was kind of a featured sponsor. Do you want to just kind of explain what the scenario was there?
Yeah, so we got talking to the exhibitor group, geez, a little while ago now. And we were, saying, well, hey, how interesting would it be if we kind of deployed Backtrack to all the exhibitors there? So long story short, Backtrack ended up being the official sort of AI meeting capture tool for all the exhibitors there, which was really fantastic. Folks were able to save and summarize the conversations they were having at their booth during the show. So when they got home, they had this kind of real transcript and summary of what they chatted about during the show. So it helped them prevent, from taking manual notes, doing data entry, things of that nature. The rollout was fantastic. We got some great feedback from folks, and it was awesome overall. We really loved it. It was great.
Awesome. So let's really dig into what Backtrack is, because you touched on it and talked about it. But I just want to first talk about, here's the challenge, at trade shows is you're working a booth. And I mean, I see this all the time, right? And you're having a conversation with someone. Mentally, you're either trying to keep track of what they're saying and qualifying someone, and you're kind of doing all this. And at some point, you scan their badge, but then when they leave, lots of times these salespeople kind of got to excuse themselves and go type things in, meanwhile, there's other people waiting to talk to this person perhaps, right? And they're have to kind of go just a second and put up their hand and go, wait, and they got to put their head down and make notes. Or the other side maybe is, you're trying to make notes while you're talking to the person and disconnecting to that person, right?
It's horrible. And the third option that I even see sometimes too is the attendees, they won't even stop by the booth if they see you on your phone. So you just, who knows who's walking by your booth in that time. So
you missed the opportunity because your head was down in your phone, right? Which, that we do trainings, and that's one of the things we talk about is we want people head up and lit up and not head down and shut down, right? So so this is good. So now walk us through, for the people who, again, don't know Backtrack. So it's, meeting capture, summary. How does this work? If you were explain, and I know because I used it at the show, but let's, pretend I don't know. Explain it to me, how am I fixing those problems we just discussed? So what goes on?
Yeah, well, so there's a few things that we hear about really often. So one is just generally what you and I just described here. But then what we also hear from exhibitors, it's hard to remember who you actually meet at the show. It's even harder to remember all the context of the conversations you have at the show, right? You're meeting 200, 300, sometimes 400 people in just a few days. It's hard to remember, okay, was Jordan the person who said this? Was this person the person who said that, right? It's hard to keep all that organized. And then turns out the data shows only 20% of leads actually make it into a CRM post-show. And then 20% of leads actually only get followed up on average post-show. So when you look at kind of all these problems that we just described here, there's a big discrepancy between kind of reality and then maybe kind of pre-show expectations that an exhibitor might have at the show. So what we've done here with our mobile app, with Backtrack, is we will actually save and summarize the conversations exhibitors are having at the trade show booth, in conjunction with doing what traditional lead capture does, extracting contact information. But we do that so that way you can focus on having the conversation at hand and not having to worry about manually taking notes, entering things into CRM, or betting on your memory that you're going to remember 400 different conversations by the time you get home and you're exhausted. So the way Backtrack works is it will just save and summarize the conversation after the conversation ends. Take a photo of somebody's badge, you'll get their contact information as well. We marry all that together in a nice contact card, and then we send it off to your CRM or your CSV or to a CSV file for you to easily access post show, which is great. And then organizers love it as well. As organizers also have little insight as to actually what's happening on the show floor. So by having a tool that helps them prove ROI, it helps them increase sponsorship sales for the following years or retain existing exhibitors.
So let's. There's a lot there. I'm excited about the tool because again, we used it there. When you talk about the show organizers liking it, are they then privy to the types of conversations that were had, or how are they when they're proving ROI? They're just like they know that people are. Speak to that a little bit more because I don't quite understand what you meant by that. So
no. So just first things first, all your conversations are your conversations. Nobody, even us, is not accessing them or listening to them. So all your conversations are your conversations. Where organizers like it as compared to what I would call traditional lead capture, if you will. You don't really get any context with traditional lead capture, right? So you scan somebody's badge and you can see number of scans, but like what we all know with traditional lead capture is sometimes you scan people who just want the free swag at your booth, or they want the free socks, or sometimes there's also really great leads mixed in there, but there's really no sort of data point that says like, hey, look, here's what's happening, or like they can't go back and say, hey, look, here's why this thing is valuable, valuable or not valuable. Versus Backtrack, because we actually save only the best conversations that you have, you inherently know, okay, every Backtrack created was actually a valuable conversation worth saving. So there's 0 tire kickers in there. And so again, all the data is anonymized, but an organizer can say, look at that and say, okay, clearly there was like actual magic happening here. So like 1,000 or let's call it 5,000 traditional lead capture scans maybe isn't the best metric, but we know if there's, let's call it 1,000 total backtracks created, okay, then those were all really valuable conversations. And we actually know, okay, people got something out of this.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're attributing quality to the number now because of the fact that it's a conversation, that's been summarized. So the way the Backtrack works, when you take a picture of the badge at the end of your conversation, ideally, you then can backtrack in time how long that conversation was, roughly, right? You kind of guess at that with how many minutes. And, and then we are, so it's kind of recording the whole time, but we're only asking it to actually capture that when we want it to. That's kind of, is that?
The best way I can describe it is think of it like a Kardashian, where it's like overriding and deleting itself in the background. So we kind of have this rolling window of time. So whatever you don't save automatically gets deleted, and that's by design on purpose. We don't want you to have to, we don't want you to save something that you don't want to be saved. You only want to save the best conversations and the best moments from the day. So just a rolling window that is overriding and deleting itself locally on your phone.
Right. And now, are there any considerations or concerns around you're kind of recording a conversation with, like, is there a best practice of saying, hey, is it okay that I use our conversation here? Like what, and certain states have certain rules about that. What can you talk about that for us for people who are kind of wondering?
100%. So first things first is in the app. In order to use the app, you have to take our pledge, which basically says you're going to be a good human and use this for the right reasons, right? And you're going to disclose how and why you're going to use Backtrack. The second thing that I would say is we also just have what we'd call it be a good human policy inside of the company. And that's just, hey, do you mind if the AI takes notes while we chat here before a conversation starts?
Yeah.
Most of the time, folks will say yes. Granted, I'm a co-founder of the company, but I only had one person say no to me. And that's actually because she worked in healthcare, was talking about sensitive personal information, which I totally understand in that case, right? So you just say, hey, do you mind if the AI takes notes with chat here? Now, what's really interesting, what we've seen lately is, everybody's adopted these tools like a Google Home or an Alexa or Siri, whatever. And so
Yeah.
people become more familiar with kind of these assistants, if you will, kind of like how Backtrack is. And what we've actually noticed with trade shows in particular, is that it's actually in both parties' best interest to have a summary of the conversation, so that way attendees get followed up upon properly. So actually, we got some survey results from past organizers, and they said one of the attendees' biggest problems is that they get home and they just get bombarded with 100 cold emails with no context, and they're going, "All right,
Right.
this person, I don't even remember who this guy was. Why are they emailing me? Name the complaint, right? Something in that direction."
Yeah.
But with Backtrack, right, it's because we have these summaries and they're contextualized. They're actually getting proper follow-ups as well. Like if I'm stopping at your booth, right, I'm stopping there for a reason because I'm interested in what you are doing. I want you to follow up with me based on what we talked about, not just some random crap that
Yeah.
the attendee, not going to remember later down the line. So what we're seeing is, one, be a good human, right? Backtrack or not backtrack. If you're going to use any reporting tool, be a good human, disclose it. And then number two is actually it's in everybody's best interest, sort of right now. And then there's kind of like a legal answer, but I know this isn't a legal advice podcast, so we can get into that some other time.
But what you just said though, Jordan, about the context of the email and being the relevance being so high, one of the questions and one of the things I hear from our clients and just being out there is just like, yeah, we get lots of leads, but how do we follow up on these? Right?
Yeah.
Like email, there are so many cold emails and you see attempts. And I mean, I'm guilty of it too, of trying to make it relevant to all, right?
Yeah.
In sort of mail merging certain things through in terms of this, follow-up sequence or whatever that you're trying to make it. Oh yeah, I was at that show. That's right. I maybe remember talking to this person or not, right? But when you actually have, actual pieces from it now, following up at scale with that content, that might be another AI tool or something that makes sense. But that idea of bringing in that conversation and it jogs all kinds of, oh yeah, that's right. We talked about that. Like that feels like a direct one-to-one email, right?
Mm-hmm.
And addressing the concerns that I shared. Of course, I'm going to open that up, right? So,
Right.
yeah,
Because it's personalized and contextual. Something really interesting. Just a couple of months ago, I was at one of Sam Littman's ESR events, and I won't say who the person was, but the speaker said something really interesting, which is number of lead scans actually doesn't matter anymore. That's not the metric we should be measuring by. It's actually just quality of those scans, which I was like, oh, that's great for Backtrack, right? That's our whole thing. But on that note, as far as the follow-ups go, right? Her whole point was, well, look, all chances are 300 scans is not going to be 300 qualified people that you need to email and follow up with, hyper specifically. Odds are you probably have 10 to 40 or 20 to 40 rather in there that are probably pretty good. And if you have the context of all of those, then you can hyper personalize those emails and follow up, very manually, very quickly compared to the 300. So it was interesting to hear her say, like, there's like a trickle down effect. It's like the quality of your leads is then kind of translates to like your process for following up. And then that process is more, personalized, which obviously results in, higher rate of fucking meetings or closing business, whatever that looks like. So yeah. Interesting, to say the least.
Well, and you have now priorities, right? As opposed to them all being the same, and you have no sense of differentiating, right?
Well, that's what's interesting about what you just said too, as far as kind of ROI on the organizer side for this as well. That's something that we also hear from our organizer partners, which is, exhibitors will go to them and they'll say, well, your show sucks. We're not coming back. We got nothing out of this thing. And when you dig in a little deeper on the exhibitor side, there's not, like you said, there's no priority. There's kind of like this very chaotic or non-existent follow-up process. There's this whole archaic way of taking notes and then hoping that you like actually put it into Salesforce or your CRM. And then it's just very archaic, right? Versus when they provide a tool like Backtrack, there's really no excuse for it anymore. It's like, okay, it took the notes for you. It can do the data entry for you. It could even, you could even have it automatically enroll somebody in the email sequence if you so wanted to. Now there's no excuse for saying, hey, we didn't get anything out of the show, or you didn't follow up properly.
Right.
It's all done with AI for you now. So
yeah. And speaking of that transition, what are some of the CRMs or that Backtrack integrates with? I'm going to guess Salesforce, because that's kind of an investor, perhaps.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that? Because people listening might go, There's so many tools out there. If they don't
Yeah.
talk to each other, it's just like, so how smooth can this be?
Yeah, we support all the major CRMs, so your Salesforce, your HubSpot, Pipedrive, your Zoho, things like that. I'm not going to name the entire list, but if there's one when you go to our integrations page and you do not see it on there, you'll notice we actually have a Zapier integration.
Hmm.
And for those listening who don't know what Zapier is essentially what I like to call the duct tape of the internet that combines tools that normally wouldn't talk to one another together. We have a Zapier integration, so you could connect it to your CRM that way. Or if nothing else, you can export it out to a CSV file and then upload your CSV file to your Salesforce or to
Right.
your CRM.
Right. Now, you talk about working with the shows, and I mean, through the shows, the exhibitors use Backtrack.
Yep.
You are What's the main focus here? Is it helping shows prove ROI and supporting their exhibitors, or selling and exhibitors using it as a tool on their own at all their shows, so they have that consistency. What are you seeing as far as how people are adopting this?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest answer, I'd say is both, right? So we have a handful of exhibitors that are going to, let's call it 30, 40, 50, 60, shows a year, and they need kind of their own internal version of lead capture. So they adopt Backtrack for that sort of use case. And then, you also have your handful of exhibitors when we partner with an organizer and they say, hey, look, my budget has it, so I'm just going to 1 to 2 shows a year and I'll use it for this show. And that's also great. We're happy to, accommodate those people as well. So the business model is sort of twofold. So organizers and exhibitors alike. Obviously, for exhibitors, it's just dependent on how many shows you're going to as an exhibitor per year.
And I can see one kind of graduating to the other. Like if you went to a show and they said, "Oh, here's a Backtrack as a tool," you're like, "Oh, okay, I'll try this," and
Mhm.
then you use it, and then you go, "Oh, I want this consistency across all my shows," and then taking it, internally as a company, to the rest
Yeah,
of the shows. Yeah, yeah, you see that
that's
now.
yeah,
Go
that's
ahead.
what I was just gonna say. That's what's happening.
That's the beauty.
That's
That's
the way it
it's
works.
a
It is
little
happening.
bit like my business model where we're working at a trade show and people see the results in the crowds, and then all the other exhibitors that are neighbors can then be
They go, wait, I want
prospects.
that.
Yeah, I want that. So very similar. So if people what's the pricing model look like, if you're an exhibitor? Is it by the show, I guess by the device, by the show, or how does that look
You
like?
actually do it, yeah. It's really simple. Just per person per event is really simple. Because what we also realize is an organization may have 60 shows in a year. That does not mean one person is going to all 60
Yeah.
shows. So what we do is we just do it per person per event. So we'll figure out, generally speaking, an exhibitor will come to us and say, hey, look, we have 45, shows coming up this year. We have X amount of salespeople. What's that pricing sort of look like? And we'll work with them on what that sort of looks like. Just because every company's so unique, so different.
True, true. Now, outside of trade shows, has
Mhm.
Backtrack been used in any other applications?
Yeah, there's actually some really creative ones. So I'll give you my favorite one last. So other interesting use cases is a doctor's office, like hospital, so translating notes between clients, which is really interesting. I won't say who. There's a very, very famous comedian who uses Backtrack to kind of like when he's riffing with his friends or coming up with jokes, he uses Backtrack to like record his
Oh,
jokes, which is really interesting. Musicians is also another use case. College students use it for their lectures. And then the one thing, actually, there's two that we're really proud of. There's two other use cases that Hunter and I have heard about that are really interesting. So one is a dad actually, by happenstance, used it to backtrack his daughter's first words, which is really cool. That's something
oh,
I never thought I would hear. Yeah, he happened to have the app open. He was at his house, happened to have the app open. She spoke for the first time. He's like, "Oh my gosh!" He like freaked. He's like, "Oh my gosh, there's no way!" And then like saw he had backtrack open, backtracked it, and was able to save her first words, which is really cool.
wow.
Um, the other thing that we're really proud of is I won't get into the details for personal reasons, but Backtrack quite literally saved 2 lives. Um, which was just it blew our minds. Yeah. The long
Unreal.
story short is yeah, somebody was able to create a backtrack, understand what happened, called EMS. EMS was able to find and locate the person because they knew they had the backtrack file and yeah, saved 2 lives. So that's something we're really proud of as well. I
Well,
mean,
like, and you would have never have
no,
imagined
no,
that your technology, your creation would do that, but that is just such a
Yeah.
cool story. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, when you set out to build a software product, that was not the, saving lives and daughter's first words was not the intention at all. But when you hear that, I mean, it's real life. That hits you in the face. You go, oh my gosh, well, that's
Yeah.
believe it. I can't even believe it. When we were hearing these stories from our users, it's almost not even hard. You're hearing it, but it's almost even hard to believe in the moment that something, us as a team created, and this is kind of what
Yeah.
it's doing to people out there in the world. So insane. So insane.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's obviously a useful tool, for those reasons. And I love the comedian side of it too, because
Yeah.
when you are joking around and you say something great, like I could even see it used in, on stage too. And so, some
Hmm.
people record your whole act, but it's like, there was nothing good in that. You didn't have, but the idea that, oh, there was something good and I should have been recording. Well, you
Right.
have that kind of
Well,
incident.
that's what he was. That's what he was
Accent.
telling us too. Like when he's like testing out new jokes, more or less. Like he's again, I'm not a comedian, so I never thought of this, but like in the moment, he's looking for things like tone or like response back from the audience,
Yeah.
his tone, his own inflection, right? Like all these little micro
Yeah.
factors influence the delivery of a joke to an audience.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really fascinating. I mean, he broke it down so technically speaking. It's almost weird to think about that exists for a comedian. But yeah,
Yeah.
cool use
Now,
cases.
any of these use cases actually tempt you to like go after a different market, or you're like, no, we'll just stick to trade shows for the most part?
I think we'll yeah, I think we'll stick to trade shows for the most part just because that's the bread and butter. That's where
Yeah.
it works the best. Yeah, I think trade shows is our bread and butter for sure.
So one of the things that we you touched on, but we didn't really talk about so much is, this is also a lead capture tool, isn't it? And
Yeah.
and so there's kind of like when I realized that, I was like, oh really? Like I
Mhm.
didn't realize there was that kind of twofold piece to it, that it's lead capture and then all the context and notes for that lead. They have to go together, obviously.
Yep.
So what are you seeing? Like that's, to me as an exhibitor, I'm seeing a
Yep.
lot of value there, because it's
Yeah.
kind of like lead capture on steroids is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Um,
I
you
would
know,
describe it.
is that like, are you seeing a lot of competition or a lot of friction with some of the other lead capture? Because you might be going head to head with other show, what I want to say, blessed, options at a show, right? As far as the lead capture and how that works.
Yeah. Well, what I can say is like, we're still relatively new-ish compared to other companies that exist in the lead capture space. So, being the new kid on the block, I think a lot of people kind of have questions about like, hey, who are these guys? What are they doing? So, we do get some of that, but fair is fair, right? As far as other people doing what we're doing, I hate the phrase, my background's in startups. I hate the phrase when people are like, nobody else is doing this thing.
Yeah.
But truly in our world, there's nobody else kind of that has the take on it that we have as far as kind of like the backwards recording, if you will, and all the AI features that go into it. So right now there's nobody else that's doing it, but that doesn't mean that nobody else won't come out with it and we won't compete with them on a more serious level in that sort of way. Which is fine. We welcome it. Like our whole belief here is like rising tide raises all boats. So, that's what we'll continue to see. But yeah, we do get the questions and comments from other people, and we'll see how it all shakes out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the best solution wins, right? Like what is the way I see it, right?
We'll
It's
let the
it's
market
fair.
decide.
Yeah, you can let the market decide exactly. So how did you and your team come up with this idea in the first place?
The story is hilarious, actually. It's almost even embarrassing, but it's so good to tell. So years ago, Hunter, my business partner, my co-founder, we were trying to raise venture capital funding for a different product. And we're from Florida, so we flew out to California, do the whole Silicon Valley thing, whatever. And somehow we earned ourselves a meeting with this investor that at the time we had no business meeting with. I won't say her name. Now we laugh about it, but we had no business meeting with her at the time.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, two really young guys, we're in our late teens, early 20s, I remember, something like that. We were really young. We didn't really know what we were doing.
This reminds me of is it like Silicon Valley episodes, right? Like
Yeah,
just
I mean,
yeah,
what you imagine, like we were those
yeah.
people. It was so embarrassing. Um, so somehow we found ourselves in this meeting with this woman, and we never talked to a VC before. Like we've never done an in-person. We definitely had never done an in-person venture capitalist meeting before. Like we were in this meeting. We had no business being there. Long story short, we get into this meeting. And when I say we got ripped to shreds, I mean, that is probably the understatement of the century. It's one of those meetings where you're like, please let this be over as soon as possible. This can't end fast enough. She's asking us questions and like we're looking at each other going, like, I don't know, like I don't know, like I don't know, right? It was just downright bad. So we leave the meeting, we're hanging our heads. I'm like, damn, wish we recorded that. And I looked at Hunter. I said that when I said that when and I looked at Hunter, and he's the most creative person in the world. Hunter goes, that would be a great product. So that night, we're taking the red eye home back to Florida. And I'm like, you know what? Let's build like, I wouldn't even call it like a V1, like a V.1 of what this would look like. So on the plane home, it's actually documented on his Instagram. It's really funny. We came up with like the original like logo, name, built a really, really scrappy version just for like our own internal personal use. And we launched it. And at the time, it was just like a small side project. We just like put it out into the universe. Nothing really happened to it, whatever. And that's kind of where it originated from. And there's a lot of other detail that got us to here today, but started out as a failed meeting, small side project. Some years went by, and then turned out, hey, this is a real thing that we can make some money on. So
That's really cool. I love that meeting and how that was humbling, I suppose. And
very much so.
And you wished you had recorded it because it was so bad, or because there was advice that
Well, both.
was going to give you.
It was so bad, like we wanted to like learn, like, okay, what can we do better?
Yeah.
But then two, like from a training perspective, it was like, all right, well, here's the questions she's asking. Here's how we can just generally improve ourselves. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's. I mean, I love stories of like, it's not like you hit rock bottom, but I mean, it's just that you took a negative
rough.
and be able to have something reborn out of that, right? Like it's just a very cool. Yeah, it's like a phoenix, rising from the ashes.
Right. Like in Harry Potter. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very cool. So from like what other businesses or what other products had you created before that time, or what were you trying to pitch at the time?
Yeah. Well, at the time that was for like a voice messaging tool. But what's interesting kind of about our background is so in college, so Hunter and I have been working together for the last, 12 years now, 13 years, a long time since college. And we actually started our first business together in college, which was a design and development agency. And we weren't good at marketing in sort of the traditional sense of like, oh, we're going to optimize the hell out of this Facebook ad or anything like that. But what we're really good at, weirdly, is going viral on the internet and building these things that would like catch attention. So at the time, it's like we had our agency, building mobile apps and websites for other people, which was interesting. But as kind of like marketing vehicles, we would build these like small little things that people would find. They go, oh, who made this thing? And then it'd be a referral business back to the overall agency. So over the last 12 years, I mean, we've built and shipped tons of different things. Some got some traction. One thing got funded by Adobe, another thing got acquired. Some have just gone literally nowhere, which also happens. So we've built and shipped a lot of different things just over the last decade and change. But at the time, the product we're trying to pitch was like a voice messaging app. So
Gotcha. Well, that's cool. I mean, that's how it goes, right? You learn from every product, every experience, and you hit upon something that catches fire.
That's kind of the entrepreneurship story here. People, I mean, you can probably appreciate this. People say, "Oh, you guys got so lucky. You raised, $10 million from Slack or Salesforce, whatever." It's like, yeah, but over the course of the last 12 years, I mean, there's a product that we launched that literally had 7 users and it went nowhere. I mean, like, just horrible, right?
Right.
So it's like we've gone through the ringer over the of our career for the opportunity now to get lucky, as people say, 10-year over success. Yeah. So.
Well, and that keeps you grounded, like you just, you don't let it go to your head and all that. So that's good stuff.
100%. Yeah. I remember that product that went nowhere. It's like, all right, it's launch day. Here we go. We're posting it.
Yeah.
7 users. Brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had similar, I've done things where I've promoted a webinar, how this is going to be awesome, and no one shows up, and you're like, I'm just going to do this webinar for me, I guess. Like, I'll just pretend there's people here.
I'll record the content. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Make the content. Hey, thanks so much for being here. I want to say, like, if people are listening and they exhibit at trade shows, which of course a lot of our listeners do,
Yeah.
how can they reach out to you to Backtrack? How can they dig into what you got going on?
Yeah, LinkedIn and Twitter are where we're all most active. So I'm just Jordan L. Walker on actually both LinkedIn and Twitter. And then Backtrack is just at use Backtrack on both platforms as well. So we'd love to hear from you, love to chat. Website is usebacktrack.com in case anybody wants to check it out. I'm looking forward to chatting to you folks, and thank you all for listening. Appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Jordan, for being here. I appreciate it. And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in once again. And until next time, you know what to do. Stay engaged. Thank you so much for listening to Engaging Personalities. If you believe this world needs more engagement and you're an industry leader or you have an interesting take on rehumanizing business, go to go.engagify.ai/podcast-guest to apply and come on the show. If you got something out of this interview, do you mind sharing it on your social media? Just grab a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show. Include the hashtag Engaging Personalities. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, engagify.ai, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening and stay engaged.